Thank you again, and thank you everybody for joining. It's actually Julian who's going to be joining us today, which we're incredibly appreciative for. But thank you so much for that. In fact, Heidi, Julian, would you like to just say a quick hello and introduce yourselves before we get started?
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name's Heidi Jenkin. I'm a practice manager within AWS, which means I run a team of consultants, and we are dedicated to local government customers.
Hi, I'm Julian Packmore. I'm the head of IT at Peterborough City Council, but work, of course, with Sam, both Cambridgeshire and Peterborough.
Excellent. Thank you both. And so I'll give you a little intro into the team. I look after our local government team here at AWS. I'll give you a little intro to the team and a bit of background as to some of the work that we're doing across the country, and then we will rapidly speed along to Julian and Heidi's sections to give you a little bit more detail about what we've done with Cambridge and Peterborough in particular. So without any further ado, to give you a little bit more context around the AWS team, we've been growing and we've been very fortunate to work with lots of customers all up and down the UK. And I thought it'd be interesting just to put some faces to our name. So what you're looking at here is our team of people all fully focused in and around local government with many years of experience in the sector. And this is growing too. We've got 2 more people joining us this month. We've got another 2 people joining us in July, and that will continue on through the rest of the year as well. In terms of who we've been working with, and you know, I'm not going to spend too long talking to this because as I say, we're very fortunate to have Julian here to tell you all about some of the work that we've been doing with Peterborough and Cambridgeshire earlier this year. But there's a whole spectrum of engagements with local authorities that we've been fortunate enough to work on, all the way from supporting customers in migrating out of data centers and running and managing and operating those environments in the clouds, through to data-led projects and supporting on enabling local authorities to better serve citizens, to enable people to live longer independent lives in the home, through to ensuring that bins are efficiently collected and that fly tipping and graffiti is identified and resolved more quickly. So a whole spectrum of engagements, and over the course of the past year, getting on for 18 months now, there's been a whole set of engagements that we would never have seen coming. We've supported Hackney in helping them coordinate data sets that enabled them to identify vulnerable residents. They were able to build those services really quickly. And one thing that's really supported local authorities this year is Connect, which is our cloud-based contact center. And we had a couple of instances where customers needed to facilitate their staff to be able to work remotely, and we were able to support them in moving that contact center service across to AWS. And we've had a number of different customers using Connect specifically as a COVID support hub. And so without any further ado, if I could ask Julian to give a little bit more context to the challenge that they were looking to overcome, and how Heidi and her team were able to support.
Thanks, Chris. Yes, I assume everyone can hear me. So yeah, the challenge. So this was an interesting one. So as we approached the Christmas lockdown, we were asked to look at a new initiative to deploy a COVID-19 isolation support hub, contact centres for the citizens of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. We already had a contact centre for contract tracing. It was up and running, but the agents were disparate across multiple organisations using different technology platforms. We had no real way of gaining any metrics around how that's being used. We couldn't pass calls between the two, between agents, because they were on different platforms depending on which council they were working from for that. And so therefore couldn't necessarily understand the effectiveness of the service necessarily. So for this particular one, we wanted to make sure that actually we're more cohesive with this approach. It was a brand new service, and unlike the contract tracing approach we took, and we weren't going to reuse staff and redeploy staff that were already working for the organisations that we were delivering this for. So we were going to go out and hire brand new agents for this. When we went through the original modelling as well, as I said, we're about to approach another series of lockdown, and the scenarios that we ran demonstrated we could potentially need up to 450 new agents to support this service. So whatever we chose had to be scalable, and using our existing on-premise environment wasn't going to be able to cope and manage with that rapid increase of usage in a short amount of time. We needed to make sure, actually, because these are brand new agents that we're going to be employing, we needed to give them technology that actually they could use straight away. You know, literally send it to their home. They're going to use the home broadband for this. Open up the box, turn it on, log on, and off they go. So as part of that, we elected to use Chromebooks, a headset, and a mouse. That's what they were sent. And for those who don't know, a Chromebook is literally a really thin, lightweight laptop that just really is a browser. So all you have access to is the internet. So it's not your traditional Windows desktop, but anything you can access on the internet, you can access via that method. So in terms of the contact center itself, we looked at various different approaches to doing this. We looked, as I said, in-house, what were we currently using for our various contact centers. I remember the conversation that I'd previously had with our AWS account manager around AWS Connect. So we gave them a call and started that conversation with them. In terms of our requirements, as I said, scale, we needed to be able to handle inbound and outbound calls at scale. So we were going to start with sort of 30 to 60 agents initially, but that could potentially scale up to nearer 450 agents. We needed a phone number that was both Peterborough and Cambridge as a regional area code. And it wasn't necessarily a number that we had, so we just had to sort of pick a number for that. We needed to make sure, actually, these are brand new agents. We did, whilst there was interviewing, there was screening, etc. Security is key around all these different elements. We wanted to make it as simple as possible. So we enabled single sign-on into our Azure AD as part of our Microsoft Office environment as well. And ultimately, whilst it wasn't part of the original minimum viable product for this, we wanted to be able to integrate with our outbreak management system, so our CRM Dynamics 365. And what we were hoping that would enable us to do is, if we needed to make a call and we had the output from the national system coming into that Dynamics environment, that the person who was making the call could just simply click on the person in Dynamics. It would then connect through to whichever system we were using and make that outbound call to that person. And likewise, quite often you get a missed call, and therefore, the person would then phone back the contact center. We wanted to make sure that automatically populated, so you'd know who was calling you, and you could pull up their record straight away and assist them as necessary. Obviously, one of the things I was saying beforehand, brand new staff, low effort agent onboarding. As a lot of staff are new to the organisation, it's brand new service as well. We're working from home using our home broadband, had to be lightweight and easy to use. And this was just before Christmas that we were given this new initiative, this development opportunity, so in less than 6 weeks we had to turn this around. So we turned to AWS Professional Services, and they were brought in to accelerate the design and the requirement, and supported by the AWS solution architects. So if I can hand over to Heidi, she'll help go through the solution that we went for.
Thanks, Julian. Yes, I guess you've covered it off in terms of the requirements pretty well there. Just a couple of call outs, I'd say, in terms of how the consultants approach this. One of the nice things about Amazon Connect is there are some example constructs that are sort of out of the box with this solution, which meant that, which was part of the reason why it was possible to get something up and running within the 3 days. So there is a preset queue and working hours and contact flows and so on. So you can start with that. And then because we had fantastic involvement from Julian's team talking about how they wanted the sort of the call journey to go, we were able to configure and adapt and customize those default capabilities pretty quickly so that we could get something that was useful up and running. A couple of things to know about doing this as quickly as possible. Obviously, thinking about how you're going to integrate it to your authorization. So I think, Julian, you mentioned Azure AD there. You want to do that right at the beginning. There are some things that need to happen from a central IT perspective. So that's something that sort of is an enabler for the whole thing to work. And then there are some things that need to be activated by AWS support, including things like particular phone numbers. So I think we had a requirement for an easy to remember phone number, and for one of the lines, activating UK mobile outbound calling capability, and also increasing some of the service limits so that scaling would happen automatically. So they were just some of the things that the consultants were able to kind of get onto and accelerate it to allow the team to meet their very rapid turnaround time requirements. I think I'll hand over to you, Chris. I think you're next on the next slide.
Well, we're back to Julian again.
Sorry, back to Julian.
All right.
All right. So yes, thank you, Heidi. So the results. So as I sort of mentioned before, we had a minimum viable product that we wanted to get live for the initial go live. Actually, we were there 2 weeks before we needed to go live, and therefore we were able to actually put in the extra functionality that we were looking for in terms of that integration into that CRM system, which was absolutely brilliant because we had a fully functioning environment in which we could go live with. So there's 3 main reporting functions that we're currently utilising as part of the solution. We're doing timekeeping within there. We've got the day-to-day advisor monitoring against the telephony soft KPIs as well. We've got site-level metrics, and these reports, most of the reports that we needed were actually out of the box, but we could then tweak them and adjust them or build new reports as we needed to, for whatever our needs were as part of it. We had extensive use of call monitoring, both live, recorded, call listening, for training and quality purposes. And again, this function is really easy to actually use, and the quality of the playback is crystal clear. Quick connects, absolutely brilliant. Set up for both translation services. So because of our demographics, there's a requirement for calling, out of the UK, mobile telephone numbers a lot of the time, and there's a quick connect also for the duty manager as well. So we can easily manage, callers can, if they need help with a person they're calling, then they can easily do a quick connect to their manager, have a chat with them, how to deal with it, etc. And we can report on those instances as well. The lines themselves can be easily opened and closed. So when we change opening hours for the service, or there's bank holidays, a couple of clicks and it's done. And this is the great thing about this. We've done this whilst we've included some of our technical engineers in terms of telephony, just more for awareness. We haven't really had to get them involved in the day-to-day running of it. So where we've gone through this reporting, we've done the opening and the closing of the lines, the changing around of those different bits. Actually, the call center manager themselves can actually manage these functions within there. Three-way calling has been very helpful, as I said, especially in regards to the translation services. And to date, the service went live on the 18th of January this year. We've handled, these numbers are slightly out of date now, but nearer 24,000 outbound calls and around 3,000 inbound calls for it. For that, the service was actually so successful in terms of it. In May this year, we then elected to move our contract tracing contact center onto the same platform as well. And the person heading up the contract tracing once again gave us what would traditionally be deemed as a very tight timeline for going live with this. And we managed to get there in plenty of time and get where we were needed with that. In terms of the insights for this, I mean, it's opened my eyes up. I know, you know, deployment of cloud services, etc., can be quick, but we have managed to, you know, two incredible feats. I've never known contact centres, you know, one contact centre, let alone two in 1 year, to be risen at such an alarming rate, which is absolutely brilliant. It's important to anticipate the key parameters up front, as Heidi mentioned earlier on. Know where the service limits are, you know, specific numbers for outbound calling, as I said before, around international numbers. And it was really great to involve the end users and the call centre manager early to make sure actually we could get through and get the call flow right for the solution. Two main challenges that we faced as part of this were international dialing. It was just, we didn't really anticipate the level of need for that at the time, and the AWS integration into the CRM. It works, it's great, but if the agent is idle, same with a lot of you know, web-based systems, then that can actually go into timeout and the call doesn't come through properly. So we just need to make sure the agents are clicking around on that screen to make sure it's kept in there. Another one's just a little insight in terms of that as well, and it's quite an interesting one. The CLI, which is the connected line interface. So when you receive a call on your mobile phone, you might sometimes see that the number comes up with a name of a company that's calling you, and they wouldn't necessarily be in your address book. What we noticed was actually by not having the name of the service that we were on there and just the localized number, we got a high success rate in terms of people answering the phone. We did joke at one point of actually thinking of naming it National Lottery and thought we'd get a much higher success rate in terms of the answering of the service. For some reason, whatever reason, we didn't go for that in the end. But it's an important thing when we're looking at these types of services, how people are interacting with them before. In terms of next steps, I mean, implementing this system, as I said, has enabled us to showcase the art of the possible in terms of both modern call centres, what they're capable of, and the rapid deployment of these new services. And has made us rethink internally about actually our midterm approach to contact centres, and actually can we do something sooner and more rapidly rather than later.